welcome in. I'm Chris. Thanks for watching. So on Wednesdays, we're going to do our rankings show each week. So I'm going to talk about week 1 ranks. As always, you can find ranks scrolling, I think over there. I don't know if I just pointed the wrong way. If I did, how funny is that? But we're going to scroll through ranks there, and my effort here is going to be to talk about players that I actually have something to show you about as you check the ranks. As always, you can go to harrisfootball.com, get my complete ranks, and listen to the podcast and hear me talk about more guys. I thought we would start today talking about Alfred Morris, the 49ers running back, who, as of August 13th, wasn't on a roster, but because of Jerick McKinnon's injury, we are considering him as a fantasy starter. I think that probably as an RB2 you could do worse than Morris this week. Let's refamiliarize ourselves with what he looked like when he played for the Cowboys. He was the starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys while Zeke Elliott was on suspension toward the end of last year. So let's break out some of that film. Mostly positive stuff, and I'll show you what kind of runner I think Alfred Morris is. What Morris is good at is drifting toward a sideline, in this case following 2 pulling offensive linemen, and then identifying a seam and cutting it upfield. Now, his cut isn't going to wow you. It's just not who Morris is as a player. He's not a quick twitch type of athlete, but he's had a lot of success in the NFL when his play callers have understood what he is. Bigger dude, good vision, smart player, hard to bring down. It helps that he was running behind that Cowboys offensive line, but I think in general, his play callers are going to agree. Get him moving laterally, let him cut upfield. That's going to go well. Hey, a quick break for me to thank our sponsor today. It's Leesa Mattresses. If you've not been sleeping great, might be time for a new mattress. It was for me. I sleep on a Leesa every single night. I really do. And I really love it. I mean, I'm just some schmo on the internet, so don't necessarily pay attention to what I like. But the great part about Leesa is that it doesn't matter if I'm comfortable. What matters is if you're comfortable, and if you're not, after sleeping on it for 100 nights, you can send it back, no questions asked. We can get you a great deal on a Leesa mattress right now. If you go to leesa.com/Harris, you'll get up to $235 off. So it's a really good deal. Leesa's been such a generous sponsor, so if you need a new mattress, I hope you'll take a look. And let's get back to more film watching. Okay, getting back into it, and counter to what I just showed you against the Eagles a moment ago. Conversely, if Morris is running up the middle, he doesn't have a lot of side-to-side juice. He can generate some force, but on a run like this, you can see from the end zone angle, there is a moment where there's a cutback lane. I think Morris probably sees it too, and he can go right. He can see a path, and he can see number 23 there, Rodney McLeod, but Morris doesn't put his left foot in the ground. He sees it, but he pitter-pats. His body doesn't really accelerate all that much, sort of stays at the same speed as he's gathering himself to get going. And in the end, McLeod gets a piece of him, and their big number 75 catches him from behind and cleans up. This is a gutsy run. Morris stays on his feet longer than you might think he would because he's strong, he's a balanced runner, he's a good player. But he's just sort of unsteady trying to make that first cut. Nice balance, taking a hit, spinning out of it. But, I don't know, an Alvin Kamara, a Dalvin Cook, really anybody whose first name rhymes with Calvin, I think they would see that little lane to the right and go. Step on the gas, accelerate. And Morris is left to sort of wobble around. I mean, it's kind of a nice little fake there on number 24, Trevor Williams. Almost it happens because he's spinning, right? That the spin itself sort of is what fakes out the tackler. You absolutely take the run, but I think you acknowledge that, is this repeatable? Is this sort of a limitation of what Morris is? And I guess I would just contrast that with this, just a much more organized play where Morris doesn't really have to cut off a 1 foot. It's not his specialty. As I said, he just doesn't have that kind of body, but the Cowboys go zone to the right. Morris gets time to see it. He gets his bulk he's rolling sideways and then he's rolling forward. And I think both of the 2 Charger plays, well, I know, they both were 6-yard gains. Both of those 2 plays I just showed you were 6-yard gains. But I think it's pretty clear which one of the 2 is repeatable. So in truth, I actually would like to be higher on Morris. I mean, he's got the right play caller. It's Kyle Shanahan. He had him in Washington, and he knows what plays to call for Morris. I'm a little afraid of the Minnesota defense. You'll see in the ranks that are scrolling beside me that I try to stick as much as possible to what I had for August ranks for when you were drafting. But there are times where, yeah, I don't want to consider matchup all that much, but I don't have that much of a choice when it comes to the outliers, the Jacksonvilles, and I think also the Minnesotas, and that's who Morris has as an opponent here in week 1. And he's got the Matt Breida factor. And frankly, I think those two players put together, that's a fine but somewhat traditional looking combination. You know, I think Breida's going to play with the shoulder, and he's going to get some carries, and Morris isn't constitutionally incapable of ever catching a ball ever, but for sure, part of the reason I'm nervous about relying on Morris until I see what the 49ers have in store for him, like, are both of these guys game flow dependent? Is this a Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen situation where, depending on what happens on the scoreboard, there's a chance if it gets out of control, maybe it's all Breida. If it's a big lead, maybe it's all Morris. And that leads me to be somewhat circumspect on both guys. And as you saw, I'm sort of ranking them pretty close to one another. All right, on the podcast, I also talked a little about Chris Carson and his rank. I have him ahead of Morris, but maybe not as ahead as you would want me to, and I kind of wanted to. So let's take a look a little bit at Chris Carson's film, limited though it be from 2017. So most of our fantasy exposure to Carson began on this run in week 1 last year against the Packers. He started the year down on the depth chart, but the Seahawks are certainly willing to change their mind when it comes to their backfield. And obviously at the first level, this is an incredibly huge cutback lane, and Carson finding it is not special, but it's a pretty good cut and probably better vision to see number 31 there of the Packers filling to the middle. Carson puts his left foot in the ground, doesn't need 2 steps to cut. He gets to the outside, and then he's off. Not a burner, gets caught here by basically everyone. It's at least partly bad defense and a wide open space, but I like that cut. That was pretty good. Now, mostly though, Carson runs like his hair is on fire. He is what you'd call aggressive, and this kind of play should look familiar compared to Morris earlier in today's show. Outside zone, designed to generate cutback lanes. Usually, when you're running to the short side of the field and you send all your linemen to the short side of the field, it's probably not going to behoove the running back to try and get around the right end. But Carson tries. Damn the torpedoes. He's going around. And sure, you can say, well, there were no cutback lanes available. I'm not entirely sure that's true. And I'm really not sure that Carson would have seen a cutback lane if it was there, because he's going fast. There's not a lot of patience there on the outside zone. He's going to hit something. And hitting things is what Chris Carson does best. I think if people are selling him to you as an NFL star, I'm not there yet. I think it's overselling. But in the tradition of Thomas Rawls in Seattle, maybe James Conner, who we talked about on yesterday's video show, well, Carson's a power back, and I like him for it. This is a fine run that happens not because of anything other than some nice balance, being able to take a hit, and then some grinding, and we will take that. Dude is a violent runner. It's not surprising he got hurt last year. It won't be surprising if he gets hurt again this year. Now, all that said, I like him, and so why can't I be a little higher on Carson for the week? I mean, if you're ever going to be high on Chris Carson for a week, why not the one where Rashad Penny is coming off the broken finger, maybe doesn't have the greatest conditioning, not having worked out and having gained lots of weight, supposedly, I don't know. I wish I could be higher, and maybe part of it comes down to the same reason I'm not high on Morris, is maybe that Denver defense does seem to me to be one of those outlier defenses I feel like I can trust. Maybe it's that the Seattle offensive line is something that I don't feel like I can trust. This sounds a little situational, and I don't like to overly rely on situational analysis, especially for week 1. We don't really know what these teams are yet. But it does seem like a bad fit for a really physical, contact-seeking running back to go up against a really physical, fast, contact-seeking front seven for Denver. I wasn't able to get Carson as high as I would have liked. I think he's an okay RB2. Maybe I prefer him more as a flex. Now, lastly, on today's show, I want to talk about Nick Foles. Kids, why do I pick on Nick Foles like I do? He's a Super Bowl MVP. I'm not even ranking him inside my top 25 fantasy quarterbacks for week 1. What is my problem? Don't I realize he's about to do it again on Thursday night against the Falcons? And to that I say, I've just seen too much. I've seen too much downside from Foles over the years to trust him when there are lower risk options available. So I thought we'd put together a little montage for your viewing enjoyment. So I'm being a wiseacre, but bottom line is I just haven't seen Foles play like he played in the NFC Championship game, and especially the Super Bowl. Much in his career, I've seen a lot of luck when he was good and a lot of just horrendous decisions when he was bad. He could wind up being fine on Thursday night. I just think that in most fantasy leagues, you've got as much ceiling with lots of other options without the scary floor of him doing a lot of what you just saw. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another show. Until then, take care. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.